Welcome back to The Word on Woodward, presented by Rehmann. Empower your purpose with Rehmann. I'm Carly Johnson. I will be your host today, along with Art Regner. And of course, you can catch us every Wednesday at noon on Detroit Red Wings and Tigers social media platforms, YouTube, and websites. Be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on live notifications so you don't miss a single second. Dan Dickerson will be joining us, as well as interviews with Detroit Free Press's Helene St. James, Tigers Hall of Famer Alan Trammell, and a special Black History Month roundtable with our game changers in our community, and much, much more. We'll have tons of fun. It's all planned out, so we're ready to bring it to you. But first, I do want to bring in my co-host, Art Regner. Art, how's it going, man?
I'm doing well, Dan. I almost called you Daniela, but I didn't. I was close, Carly. I am doing well. Yeah, you know. I'm an old dog at this point, so new tricks are tough to teach, I think, or whatever the old expression is. But it's great to be with you, Carly, as always. We're having a good time. I'm looking forward to the show. A lot of great guests, a lot of good topics, and we have a lot of good stuff. This is a really diverse show today, if I may say. We're going to go. We're spanning the globe, as they used to say on Wide World of Sports today, but it all centers right here in Detroit, Michigan. It's going to be great.
That it does, Art. You are so right. And that brings me into our first segment of the show, which is the Big Three. So the Big Three, we're going to start. Well, we have a lot to cover, Art. So first up, I do want to say, unfortunately, the Red Wings lost to the Nashville Predators yesterday, but we're going to recap that game real quick. We have highlights from that game. In my opinion, Art, it was a goaltender's game. We saw Jonathan Bernier so solid in that.
Well, we certainly did. I mean, the way you have to look at it is this way. The Red Wings for two periods played the way that they have to play. The game got away from them in the third period because they took a couple penalties and they turned the puck over in their own end. That is a recipe for disaster. Nashville's power play was 2 for 4. The Red Wings only had one chance. So as great as Jonathan Bernier played, and he played great, he had a .938 save percentage in that game, 939, right around there. You have to score, as Dylan said. You have to score to win, and unfortunately, the Red Wings just couldn't get it done.
Right, exactly. Okay, so let's look at the first period. Again, like we said, Jonathan Bernier, solid in net for the Red Wings. Unfortunately, we see that turnover you were talking about. But Bernier, just holding this team in the game. Another low-scoring game. Unfortunately, the Wings were shut out. But the Predators were just whipping shots at Bernier last night. I believe it was 33 shots on net. And Jonathan Bernier saving 31 of those. See that scramble in front of the net. I mean, they were just on him all night.
Well, they were. I mean, look, Nashville's a really good team. They've had a really tough year. Here's the, that was just a great goal by Forsberg. I'm not sure. There was interference, and that goal was called back. But I'm not sure, even if Granlund did not make contact with Bernier's skate, that wasn't going to be a goal. I mean, that was just a goal scorer's goal. Forsberg and the Red Wings really caught a break, and you thought maybe things would start going their way.
Yep, and then we went into the third period, still tied 0-0. And then, unfortunately, we saw the Nashville Predators get on a couple power plays. But before that, we see Jonathan Bernier with this 3-1 save, if you will. I mean, geez, like, this puck is not going in behind me. I'm snagging it no matter how many times you try and get it behind me.
Well, Jonathan Bernier has, in his last 5 games, his save percentage ranks in the top 5 in all of the NHL. I mean, he is rolling. When he gets on a roll, he has been tough to beat. And that was just that went off Mark Stahl's stick. That first goal. That was a break.
Right.
Yeah, that was a break. The second goal was really well set up, and there wasn't much Bernier could do about that. That was a wicked shot. So you have to, sometimes you have to tip your cap to the opponent reluctantly, and I will there to Nashville on that play.
Absolutely. Specialty teams seem to be ill-fated for the Detroit Red Wings last night. Of course, they couldn't capitalize on their power play. I know that is a negative storyline. We've been looking at this team. They went 0 for 1 on the power play yesterday, and then of course, we saw that the Predators were able to capitalize on 2 of those 4 power plays. So not the best game, but you know what? I will look at it as it was a very good defensive playing game. I will say that.
Well, they have to play that way, Carly. I mean, the biggest stat to me, and there are a lot that stick out, and we can talk about the power play, and I know we will because we have to talk about the power play. That is the story right now for the Red Wings is the lack of power play goals, but they gave the puck away 15 times last night. And I think a lot of that was in the third period. And when Jeff Blashill was talking after the game and said, I thought our guys went 80%, but not full 100%. If we're not 100%, then we don't have a chance to win. We're not giving ourselves a chance to win. I think he's probably talking about the way play dropped off in the third period by taking penalties. That's where it dropped down to 80%. I thought for the first two periods, actually, I thought the Red Wings were doing a lot of good things. They were playing their style. They were in the game. So, but, hockey's a 60-minute game, 3 periods, and unfortunately, that third period did not work out well for the Wings.
Yeah, unfortunate that they couldn't finish strong. I know it wasn't a bad game. Again, like I said, obviously not really much offensive production, but that is something that the Red Wings are going to have to work on going into tomorrow's game against the Nashville Predators. Hopefully they'll come out with a vengeance.
Well, you hope so. Look, for the most part, and we've talked about this, 5-on-5, they're not a bad club. And the guys are getting back from COVID. And when I mean getting back, I know they've been around now for about a week or so, but they're starting to get their legs. They're starting to get some chemistry. They're starting to gel. And so with all that said, I think you really have to just say that they're a better team. I know people look at me and say, what are you, crazy? But they're a better team. They play hard. Every game is competitive for the most part. Their defense, their goaltending is better this year. So they're giving themselves chances to win. But as Dylan Larkin said yesterday, and this is the key, in this league, it's tough to score 5-on-5. And again, the Red Wings are not a bad 5-on-5 club, but you got to convert on the power play. And when you're 0 for 37, dating back to January 28th, you're unfortunately not going to win many hockey games in the NHL.
Yeah, so hopefully they can break that streak tomorrow night. I'm looking at them to break that power play drought that they have. But we're going to move on to the next topic of the big three, which is clubhouse notes of the Detroit Tigers. We know that the full squad is reporting in Lakeland. Exciting times. I cannot believe that baseball is already back. But we do know that AJ Hinch has been giving daily press conferences. So before you and I talk about it, I do want to hand it off to AJ Hinch on his most challenging and gratifying moments as a coach.
Well, the most challenging part is getting everything right. We make a ton of decisions throughout the day, both for players individually, but within the game. And when you're a perfectionist, like my personality is, you it's hard to be perfect. You're going to make bad pitching decisions. You're going to make bad lineup decisions. You're going to start a runner and get him thrown out at a critical moment. And my most challenging is internally. I just want to be perfect. I want to manage the perfect game and put all our players in a position to be successful. And the rewarding part is when you get it right and you see these players flourish and you get to win and you win together. You have those shared experiences that last a lifetime. I'll never forget those. I mean, I can recite back to my playing days, my early managing days, to just spring training experiences, some fun we're having on the field today. That you remember those experiences with the players and with your coaches, and by far the most rewarding is that joy.
I mean, you love to hear it. You can tell he's super excited to start this spring training with a new team. So I know I'm really ready to see him out there as the Red Wings skipper, or excuse me, the Red Wings as the Tigers skipper. Woo! This is getting tough for me between the two teams.
This is kind of a random thought, and because I really do want to say something about what AJ Hinch just said, but with that haircut that he has, if Brad Galley were to cut his hair and wear a Tiger cap, don't you think there's a little bit of a resemblance between the two? Maybe even their voices. I wonder if somewhere down, if they were to do one of those DNA swab tests, that those guys aren't related somewhere down the line. I don't know. Again, a very random thought. And I know you're close with Brad. I love Brad too, but I'm just saying I got a Brad Galley vibe going when I saw AJ Hinch talk over there. But hey, look, spring training just started. What I'm really eager to look for, and I know I have a tendency to be redundant, but I'm really looking forward to how this team meshes with this new coaching staff. Again, that is not an indictment against Ron Gardenhire. I think those guys did as well as they could do with what they were presented, the roster they were presented with. So I understand that. But I think that this is going to be a fascinating thing. And even though, I asked JP Morosi, about is there a national buzz about the Tigers? I think we've already seen that AJ Hinch is going to demand everything from each and every player. Whatever they have, they better put it out there on the field. And he has a kind of a nice Brad Galley way of doing it, but he still gets his message across. So I look at it that way. That's what I'm really fascinated about. And he's right. And, and not to, I keep mixing sports, but we are a Tigers Red Wings show. But when Steve Yzerman talked about a rebuild, about how when you're there at the beginning, when you see Mo Sider or Lucas Raymond or whomever, Dylan Larkin, back in 2017 or whatever, stepping on the ice for the first time and, and scoring, or you're there from the beginning. And we're here from the beginning of the AJ Hinch era, and I'm really excited about it. I really, really am, because I think these players are going to buy in. It's a young club. Chris Fetter is 34 years old or whatever, very young pitching coach, really hot. I mean, the Yankees wanted him. That's all you need to know. So with all that said, I'm pretty excited just about how this is coming together. And, can I say, it's a starting pitching, or am I looking to, is the Candyman for real? I mean, there's all kinds of storylines here, but I think the main one is AJ Hinch, he's in charge, and how this is all going to come together.
I'm really looking forward to it. I know all the Tigers fans are, and the team is as well. But that's all we have for the MLB. Let's get into the Red Wings and talk a little bit about some of the prospects we have. I know you mentioned Moritz Seider. We have some injury updates, although that's not the greatest thing to talk about, but we do know Yzerman spoke on the 2020 first-round pick. As we know, Lucas Raymond, he'll be out for the next 8 weeks with an elbow injury, and Moritz Seider is doing all right after working through a bruised shoulder, but, you go through the ebbs and flows of a season, and it happens. Injuries are completely inevitable, and even with this season, with the whole COVID just thrown into the mix of it, I do believe that both issues will be easily resolved, and that when they eventually get to the Detroit Red Wings, they're wearing that wing wheel on their sweater, they'll be good to go. Hopefully they're getting those injuries out of the way, and then once they get to Detroit, it'll be smooth sailing.
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, when Steve was at the Detroit Economic Club, I don't know how many times he's probably addressed it before, but, only heavy hitters speak to the Detroit Economic Club. We're talking presidents and newsmakers and all that kind of stuff. And so Steve was there. I think Jeff Blashill also spoke. Lucas Raymond re-aggravated an injury that he's had that it sounds like maybe the first time around it wasn't properly not diagnosed, but it wasn't properly cared for. So he went in. It sounds like an arthroscopic procedure where they had bone spurs and bone chips. They had to clean up the elbow. So he's out for about 8 weeks. It is not long term. In 36 games for Frölunda, he had 18.6 goals, 12 assists. He was a +1. It's only 18. So, he's coming around. I expect him, the Art Regner, and Steve's going to love me saying this, I expect Lucas Raymond to make the team next year. I mean, they need goal scoring. I mean, this kid can set up, he can score. And then Mo Sider was out for about, I think with Rogla, I believe that's how you say his club in Sweden. He was out for about 3 weeks with a bummed shoulder. He went into the board kind of heavy and fell and, probably wrenched his shoulder. This kid, he's going to be a Red Wing when Rogla's season's over. And no offense, all you Rogla fans out there, I hope it's soon. I know you're like the first place club, so you're probably going to have a long playoff run. But we need Mo here. We want to see Mo in Detroit. Look, get this: 33 games played, 5 goals, 19 assists, 24 points. 24 points. Only 12 penalty minutes, and he's a +20. +20. That's fabulous. Fabulous. So Seider is back. He's on the mend. He's a tough kid. So I'm looking forward to when he gets here. And he can't get here until Rogla, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing it, until their season is over. Please, hockey gods. Nothing against Rogla. Let him win it all next year, but let him get eliminated early and get Mo back to North America.
Oh, Art, what am I going to do with you? I agree with you slightly. We're excited here in Detroit, but wishing them both a speedy recovery and well wishes from all of us here. Wow. That is it for the big three. Thank you to Chevy for sponsoring it. Chevy cares. That is why Chevy Clean dealers are committed to using enhanced vehicle cleaning measures with CDC-approved cleansers before delivering your vehicle after purchase or service. So when you're ready, you can find new roads with confidence. And now it's time for the mailbag presented by Little Caesars, where I'm going to bring Art back and we're going to ask a couple questions. Art, are you ready?
As ready as I'm ever going to be there, Carly.
All right. Well, the first question is, of course, to you. Mitch from Farmington Hills asks, last week, Ken Dryden wrote an article in favor for expanding the size of the nets in the NHL. 2 questions. All right, Art, you love this two-parter. Do you agree, and do you think the NHL will consider it?
Well, everybody, pull up with your sandwich for lunch and your nice ice cold drink, and because this is going to go on for a while. First and foremost, the article was in the Atlantic. I used to subscribe to the Atlantic. It is a wonderful publication. I mean, but it is a highbrow publication to a certain degree, where all the articles are in depth. And they're very long, and which I like. I'm not knocking it, but what I'm saying is that by the time I got done reading this Ken Dryden piece on goaltending and wanting to make the nets bigger, I thought it was his doctorate thesis. I thought that he was he went back to Cornell to become a doctor in goaltending, which he probably already is. This is a fascinating article because every time the NHL tried to limit goalie equipment or their pads and all that, goalies always came up with something else to use. Now, I've always been on the goalie side because these graphite sticks that they use now, which are really light, expensive, and have a lot of torque on them, these things, they're shooting missiles at these guys. So I'm thinking, give the goalie as much protection. Well, Ken says, not so fast, goaltenders. I was a goalie. I won like 6 Stanley Cups in 8 years. With great Montreal teams coached by Scotty Bowman. But anyway, he said, look, we've got to make the nets bigger. That's essentially what he's saying. The net is smaller now because goalies are bigger. And I'm jumping around because this is an extensive piece. But what he said is that, they started to limit pad size, but they didn't limit the pad length. So what happened was goalies made these pads, their leg pads, practically come up to the middle of their stomachs, because when they would go down, and everybody plays the butterfly style now because they're bigger, right, so there's less net to shoot at. When they play the butterfly, usually that would leave the 5-hole open. But because these pads are so big, what happens is when they go down, it goes and it shuts the 5-hole off. You can't see it. So goaltenders have done a lot, and there's a lot less goals now being scored from 20 feet out. Like our good buddy Johnny Grodnick. Johnny comes down the wing, much like Ryan did his last goal that he scored for the Red Wings. Comes down his wing and fires the puck from like outside of 20 feet. That doesn't happen very much anymore. That doesn't happen because everybody is packed in tight. The goalie's down. He has everything covered. He's got on this big equipment, and, they got the Reflecto shoulder pads that Garth Snow used to wear. They can't wear those anymore, but, they're really big. How many times have, Carly, when we're in the room, and whether it's, Jimmy Howard, we haven't seen Thomas Greiss yet, or Jonathan Bernier or whomever, they walk in and they look like the Michelin Man, right? They're gigantic. They're gigantic human beings. Yeah, and they're walking kind of gingerly, and they're kind of walking like this. And then they take their equipment off, and my God, they look like a twig. They're in shape, don't get me wrong, but compared to what they were when they're walking off the ice to where they are now, it's like, my God. Well, that's what Ken Dryden's really essentially talking about. So what he would like to do is move is make the width 6 inches wider and 6 inches taller, which would open up the game. And I can see that, make the nets bigger because goaltenders are bigger, make them become more athletic because all they do now is stay on their knees for the whole game. They all play the butterfly. They all just sit there. They don't even have to stand up, which I think really, really rankles him. And I can see that. I like the idea, but I think until the NHL addresses the stick issue and the torque and these guys, and because sticks are always evolving too, I don't think it's going to happen. I just don't. I do like the idea. It would open the game up. It would open the ice up. I like it. I like the idea. I just don't think it's going to happen until the goaltender union would say, and I'm going to talk to Ozzy about this, they would say, listen, then do something about the sticks. Go back to the old wood sticks. But then again, I love saving trees, so I don't know if I'm a big fan of that. But fascinating article. Really, everybody should read it. Hopefully I answered that question.
Okay, and I know you prefaced it saying it'd be a long one, so I'll let this one slide. But I don't even have to read the article anymore. I just read the whole thing through your words. All right, and then
there's a lot more to it. Trust me, a lot more.
In question 2, Brady from West Bloomfield asks, Herb Blash yesterday talking about building for long-term success. In your opinion, would you like to see more physicality or flash being the team's hallmark?
Well, this is going to sound like a cop-out answer, but I would like to see both. And the reason I would, and we have addressed this before, is that the best teams in hockey, the best teams in the National Hockey League will play any style you want and play it better. Tampa is a perfect example. You want to play a rough and tumble game? They can do that. You want to play a finesse game? They can do that. It all starts with goaltending and defense, and the Red Wings are better that way. So I would think that, and playing right into what I'm saying is look at the power play. You need skilled guys. You need to score some goals. So you need a balanced and complete team. You need to be able to roll 4 lines that can play any way, that you want to play. You can almost – Tampa is an interesting team, and there's a couple of other teams that are just like this. I would say Vegas is this way. Colorado plays this way. Think of the really, really elite teams. Now, some have a hallmark, as Brady said, that they're more known as a defensive club. But at the end of the day, they're a complete and balanced hockey team. That's really what you want to see. That's why I want to see Lucas Raymond here next year. Hopefully Joe Veleno, who's doing pretty well in Sweden too. Infuse some young, not so much young talent, but they need scoring. They need guys who can put puck in the net. The Red Wing forwards need some help. And I'm not knocking anybody on this year's team because they're trying, and they're trying really, really hard. And I tip my cap to them, as I said earlier. But I really think when the Red Wings are where Steve wants them to be, they're going to be a team that rolls 4 lines and can play any style you want.
Awesome. All right. And I know I do want to talk about the current team a little bit. Bobby Ryan. So we heard in Morning Skate presented by Little Caesar, shameless plug, Daniela Bruce caught up with Fox Sports Nashville, Kara Hammer. And she was telling us that Bobby Ryan was working with Junior Predators girls coach, Allie Lacombe, on skating. How cool is that he reached out to her and said he wanted to help with his skating. And he's been playing so fantastic for the Red Wings this season. Or how good of an idea do you think that was for Bobby Ryan to head on down to Nashville and meet up with her?
Well, obviously Bobby Ryan, there isn't a pro athlete that's worth his professionalism who isn't always trying to get better. No matter what the age, no matter how great they are, they're always trying to improve their game. And Bobby Ryan knew that he had to improve his skating. I think actually there's a quote there by Jeff Blashill as well, who said Bobby Ryan's skating is really good. I will tell you right now, going back for decades now, a lot of NHL players have worked with women coaches or skilled coaches, but primarily figure skating coaches and figure skaters themselves. It adds agility, it adds strength, believe it or not, and it adds quickness to their to their skating. And so I think that this is just a great thing. I think that it's not out of the norm. What Bobby Ryan's doing is just trying to get better. But I think having women who are really incorporating, as they should, into professional sports in all walks of life. We're seeing women coaches now in pro sports, coaching men and female referees and all that kind of stuff. But this actually was the precursor. This predates all of that. Women have been helping big bruising hockey players learn how to skate and get better for decades now. Talking to Mark Milligan, our producer, Haley Wickenheiser, kind of revolutionized this in Canada, but this has been going on for a long, long time. Bobby Ryan is in a long line of NHLers who have employed, in this case, this is a hockey coach, but for the most part, really, if you Google figure skating in the NHL, I'm sure the Atlantic, if they haven't already, will have a big long piece on it soon.
And it's funny too. You always hear like ballerinas working with wrestlers and stuff. So sometimes you have to add a little grace to your grit.
Well, you're right. Well, you know what? Grace to your grit. That's you should probably patent that. But well, pat yourself on the back. But make sure that anytime that's said, you get a little piece of it. I will say this is that you have seen ballerinas, ballet, yoga. Again, right. Professional athletes are going to do whatever they want, whatever they can do, and stretching. I mean, it's come a long way. Let's be honest. Back in the olden days, I mean, these guys were smoking and drinking and looking at the racing forms and smoking cigars, and then they go play hockey. Then the off season would happen, and they'd have to go get jobs, and and then that's different. The money's different. That's why it's probably different. But now they're really in tune with their bodies, and they'll do anything to make themselves better.
Not quite sure exactly how we got there, but that's very, very true. Speaking of
things have changed.
Yeah, they have. Speaking of morning skate, make sure to catch Ken Cal and I and Daniela Bruce on Morning Skate presented by Little Caesars tomorrow at 10:30 as we preview the Red Wings game again Thursday night against the Nashville Predators. And speaking of Little Caesars proudly introduces their hot and ready pepperoni cheeser. You get a large pizza topped with classic pepperoni, fresh mozzarella, and a toasted Parmesan and Asiago cheese crust for just $7. Try our no-contact pizza portal or delivery from Little Caesars. Don't go anywhere. Of course, we have tons of fun still planned for the rest of the show, including interviews with Lane St. James of the Detroit Free Press, Tigers Dan Dickerson, and Hall of Famer Alan Trammell. But for now, let's get into Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meijer. Let's talk about a few things that we've seen around social media. And I know we have that incredible Game Changers Roundtable coming up. So I do want to touch on a bit. I have 3 social media posts that I'd like to highlight in honor of Black History Month. First up, Werner Blakely Jr. That's someone that I was able to catch up with a few months ago here on Catching Up with Carly, presented by Meijer. He is the Los Angeles draft pick, and he spoke on Torrey Hunter being such an inspiration to him.
My favorite Tiger growing up was Torrey Hunter. He meant a lot to me and the Black community in Detroit. He stood out to us the most by the way he interacted with his teammates, and the way how hard he worked, and everybody said good things about him. I think everybody wanted to be like him growing up. It influenced me a lot. I think if you ask any of my teammates, they would definitely say Werner is a good teammate. I feel like being a good teammate means a lot, and Torrey Hunter displayed that really well. African-American players have inspired me to do many things. I was just that kid, the inner city kid in Detroit, going to baseball camps. So my goal is I definitely want to reach out to all those kids and make sure that everybody who plays baseball can get an outlet and they can, do things that they probably think that they couldn't do. Like I said, I was once that kid. So them giving back to the community, it meant so much. So I feel like this is something that I have to do.
Outstanding kid. I know like I said, I caught up with him before for Catching Up with Carly. Very well spoken. He'll make big moves, not just in the MLB, but also in the community. Looking forward to that. Also, speaking of the MLB and Tigers, we heard from Ellen Zerang Hill, who got to speak with MLB. She is the VP of Tigers Marketing, and they highlighted her for Black History Month. How amazing is that? So she was able to speak about her role and just how she made it to where she is now. So make sure to head on over to MLB's Twitter to catch more of that for the full tweet. And then last but not least, back to speaking of the NHL, we heard from Marlo Stoudemire. We did hear that he passed around a year ago now. Unfortunately, we lost a big pivotal role of bringing the game of hockey to inner city kids. Marlo Stoudemire was a pivotal role in bringing about Learn, Play, Score. The NHL and NBC did a piece on him, but Daniela Bruce and I caught up with his widow, Valencia Stoudemire, for a game day recap there on Hockeytown Home Ice. And again, NBC did a fantastic job of remembering him and the things he did for the community. So an outstanding guy and such a sore loss for the hockey community and Detroit as a whole.
Unfortunately, we've been saying this a lot lately, gone too soon. Somebody had a lot of life, a lot of impact, and a lot of good things still ahead of them, which would benefit all of us and benefit society as a whole. But yeah, I mean, obviously, if you can see the outpouring of everybody about Marlo and, what he did to learn, play, and score, I mean, he's an essential part of that. You really just have to, I mean, there's so much that we just can't explain,
Right.
About life and what goes on and, what happens to, why certain things happen. But our world, it might be cliche-ish, is a lot better. The Metro Detroit community is a lot better. The hockey community is a lot better because of Marlo Stoudemire, and he is greatly, greatly missed.
Could not agree more. We'll have to keep on with his legacy. But also, speaking of Black History Month, as we round out February, join the Red Wings in celebrating Black History Month with the purchase of a limited edition t-shirt. Each shirt costs $30 with proceeds supporting local youth programming through the Detroit branch NAACP and the Detroit Red Wings Foundation. To learn more and to purchase one of these awesome t-shirts, visit DetroitRedWings.com/equality. Thanks to Meyer for catching up with Carly, but now it is time to pivot into Bet You Didn't Know. Art, are you ready for this? It's presented by PointsBet Sportsbook, and we're going to be talking about the game tomorrow night. PointsBet Sportsbook is the official gaming partner of the Detroit Red Wings, Detroit Tigers, and Little Caesars Arena. All right, like I said, Art, we are going to be previewing the game ahead and talking about yesterday's unfortunate loss against the Predators. Of course, we know they dropped another game to the Nashville Predators last night with the final score being 2-0, a shutout. Both of Nashville's goals came in the third period, both on power plays. So we know specialty teams were not ideal for the Red Wings last night. Philip Forsberg and Eeli Tolvanen were the goal scorers in this game, which means Philip Forsberg extends his point streak against the Detroit Red Wings, now finding the score sheet in 6 straight games. He is a force to be reckoned with out there. But I know Coach Blash was talking about the compete level last night. Can you talk to us about that?
Well, yeah, again, Jeff Blashill said he thought that the Red Wings, their compete level was about 80%. And, and they have to be at 100% or near 100% each and every game just to give themselves a chance to win, because they're just not there yet. They're not that highly skilled run and gun, team that we've seen, quite frankly, in the past here in Detroit. I actually, again, like I said earlier, I think he was talking about primarily the third period where they took a bunch of penalties. They gave up 2 power play goals, although Forsberg's goal, went off the stick of Mark Stahl, but that, of course, happens in hockey. I think that they gave the puck up way too many times in that third period. That always leads to penalties because you're trying to get the puck back. But again, the bane of their existence has been the power play. 0 for 1 last night, 0 for 37 dating back to January 28th. This is the longest streak by a team not scoring a power play goal since Ottawa went 14 games, March 3rd through 31st. So the whole month of March they didn't score in 2016. So this is, if it isn't at crisis state yet, it's soon to be at crisis state. I mean, somehow, some way, the Red Wings are going to have to figure out that power play. They're going to have to stay out of the box because Nashville's starting to feel good about themselves. They've won 2 games in a row, something the Red Wings have not done yet this year. But, and again, what Dylan Larkin said yesterday, and when everybody, and I'm going to ask Helena this when we have her on here in a second, but yeah, the Red Wings are a better team this year, believe it or not. They really are. However, they're not scoring any power play goals. And as Dylan said, scoring 5-on-5 in this league is tough. You got to convert on the power play. If you look at it, the power play has really, really been the reason why Detroit is at this point, struggling as they are.
Right. Well, the Red Wings will have another shot at the Predators tomorrow night at Little Caesars Arena with puck drop coming at 7:30. You can catch the game on Fox Sports Detroit with pregame starting at 7. And of course, while you're watching that Red Wings game, make sure to download the Home Turf app and tune into Hockeytown Home Ice. You will see Art Regner, Daniela, Bruce, and I will have a special alumni. And of course, if you're a Michigan resident, you can have a chance to win a pair of Red Wings home tickets. So make sure, again, to tune into Hockeytown Home Ice presented by Bud Light on the Home Turf app. And thank you so much to PointsBet Sportsbook for sponsoring Bet You Didn't Know. Are you ready to make it rain? 30 days, 30 games, $3 million in free bets given away to PointsBet customers by Paige Sporanic. Download the PointsBet app to find out more. And Winged Wheel Nation, come on now. Hey, Wings fans, starting this week, you have the opportunity to secure your spot as a Red Wings season ticket member, better known as the Winged Wheel Nation, by placing a deposit as low as $50. You'll be on our priority list for selecting your seats this summer. For more information, go to DetroitRedWings.com/Winged Wheel Nation. Woo! Speaking of the Red Wings, it's now time to talk some hockey on Downtown Hockeytown, presented by Labatt Blue Light, where Art and I are lucky to be joined by returner Elaine St. James of the Detroit Free Press. Hey, Elaine, how's it going?
Very well, thank you.
Awesome. Well, we're very excited to have you on. Yet again, I know the Red Wings, as we just talked, fell to the Nashville Predators 2-0. What was your takeaway from the game last night? Can we have a positive and a negative?
A positive?
Yes.
They competed. I thought defensively they were good. I mean, 2 power play goals. Like you said, one of them went off Mark Stahl. So I think defensively, structurally, they were fairly sound, but the lack of offense is just stunning. And I think it's honestly a little bit baffling because as much as they clearly missed Tyler Bertuzzi, who we haven't seen since last month, when you have Dylan Larkin, Anthony Mantha, Bobby Ryan, Philip Sedina in the lineup, you would think the odds are they're going to score a goal and they're going to convert on one of these power plays. Philip Hronek as well. It's just staggering. I think now they have 6 goals their last 4 games, shut out twice in 4 games. I mean, I don't think this is what anybody envisioned when the season began.
Helena, you bring up such a good point, and I said I was going to ask you this. I am trying to tell everybody out there, trust me, this is a better hockey club this year. It is a better team. Goaltending's better, defensively they're better, but they think I'm nuts. They think I'm drinking, the Steve Yzerman Kool-Aid here. But I see progress, but when you can't score goals and the name of the game is scoring goals, it's tough to try to convince people that. I mean, do you agree with me that they're a better team, even though their offensive woes are, as you said, stunning? I'm going to add another S word to it, staggering. So, but the Red Wings are better, right?
Yeah, Art, I think it's like Tolstoy wrote in Anna Karenina, happy NHL teams are all alike, unhappy teams are all unhappy in their own way. Wings have got to be unhappy with how much they're struggling because they are a better team, and I agree with you. They are, and I don't even like Kool-Aid. They are a better team than last year. It doesn't show in their record. It does show in their goal differential. Right. But I mean, I think you have to look back to, and Steve touched on this Monday, the fact that 1 week into the season they lost 20% of their lineup, including 66% of their second line in Fabry and Sedina. It really did impact them, and who knows, in hindsight, maybe they should have paused. I mean, that's what other teams did when they had 5 players in COVID protocol, but they went on that 8-game winless streak, and they've really struggled to recover. Now, I will say, I don't understand how they don't come out with more hunger and more urgency last night. Dylan said we needed to be hungrier around the net. I'm not sure how that's missing when you've got to look at the Nashville Predators and think this is a team that the Red Wings can beat and not come out with more urgency, with more hunger, especially after such an emotional weekend. And, they haven't had a lot of opportunities to build on a winning streak. And, this was another opportunity squandered.
Helene, I couldn't agree more, but one bright spot I do have to say, I know we've been looking at a goalie rotation, 2 solid netminders between Thomas Greiss and Jonathan Bernier, although we have seen Thomas Greiss fall a bit in the past few games. Jonathan Bernier, though, solid and not for the Red Wings. He's really been keeping the team in the games.
Oh, he's been fantastic, absolutely. He certainly deserves the first star Saturday, and he gave them every opportunity last night. It has to be frustrating for him to see. Now, I think his save percentage is quite good, somewhere in the 914, 915 range. So he certainly has that. Their record for both of them reflect how much the team has struggled to win. But absolutely, I think, if you ask right now, Jonathan Bernier has got to be the MVP of the season for them, which he arguably was last season as well. He's having a terrific year, and it kind of brings up an interesting thing jumping ahead here to the trade deadline. Does Steve get an offer for him? Bernie has put together now 2 back-to-back really, really solid seasons. Is there a possibility there that maybe they part ways with him if there's a good offer, or do they figure somebody's got to be able to be in net and stop the puck? Give them a chance to win at least.
Well, we're on the same wavelength today, because I was just about to ask you about the trade deadline, but I'm going to jump back a little bit. I'm looking at it this way. Okay, the definition of insanity, which Blashill keeps bringing up, is doing the same thing over and over and over again. So when your power play is 0 for 37 and you've tried a few combinations, does he just say, screw it, I'm going to put in Luke Glendening and Darren Helm and Franz Nielsen, you guys are my forwards on the power play? Or do you bring in Svechnikov or call up Giovanni Smith for net front presence? Are we getting to a point where we're all being driven insane by this power play? It's time to do something drastic, if that makes sense.
Or figure out a way to decline the penalty. Just say, right, no. We don't want the extra.
That's crossed my mind.
Yeah, it is the definition of insanity. I think you have to go with, at some point, the odds have to come in your favor, and Bobby Ryan's going to get a goal, Dylan Larkin's going to get a goal, Anthony Manza. Now, I agree, it's been 13 games, right, and we're not seeing it. And I think maybe troubling as well is they've looked really good on the power plays in a few games here and there. But last night they were never a threat. In most of these games, even when they have 3-4 power plays, they don't even look like a threat. And I do like how Jeff now has taken to explaining how even good power plays fail, 80% of the time or something. It's I think reverse logic that, hey, don't expect a power play to be good, because even good power plays fail most of the time. So, but without question, it's the huge storyline of this season so far is just until they start doing better on special teams, their record isn't going to get any better.
No, that's definitely right. I can see they're coming back, they're changing shifts, another failed power play. It's like, don't worry, guys, Tampa only converts 30% of the time. So,
So they're failed, right? 70% of the time. I think you remember last season, whenever they got a power play would be when I would wander over to where you sit and just chat for 2 minutes, because we knew we wouldn't miss anything.
That's exactly right.
Oh,
yeah, the Red Wings are on a power play. Are they really, though?
Time to get a snack.
It's really interesting to see that they do play better with that 5-on-5 rather than a one-man advantage. What do you think it is? Do you think it's the system? Are they, as Art loves to say, gripping or clenching the sap out of their stick?
Possibly. I think at this point now, Jeff likes to say, there's no reason why you shouldn't feel confident, but I do think as a group they have to, their confidence, you can probably mop the floor with it. It has to be so low. When Glendening said it in reference just to losing overall, when you keep getting beat down, it's hard to keep having a positive attitude, hard to keep sticking with it. And yet that's the only thing they can do. I think, their breakouts have suffered at times. They haven't always done well on face-offs on the power play. And it just seems like they get disrupted and then they spend, 30, 40 seconds trying to get set back up. And before they know it, the power play is gone. And that kind of brings to mind what Dylan said the other, and I think Dylan's been excellent in his assessment of games afterwards. But last night, he said we can't just let these games go by, and it really is, more than a third of the season is already gone. We're creeping up on the halfway point, and they're certainly not going to be able to rally, and get anywhere near the playoff picture I would expect. And I don't think anybody in the organization outside of the locker room expected them to be a playoff team this year. It's just, instead of finishing 31st, I think there was a hope that maybe they would finish somewhere in the mid-20s, that they would at least improve enough, to rise a little bit in the standings.
Helena, during the Lake Tahoe festival that we just experienced over the weekend, on Sunday night's game between the Flyers and the Bruins, Eddie Olczyk, I guess, implored the Bruins to call Steve Yzerman and inquire about Mark Stahl at the trade deadline. I know it's early on. We brought it up. It isn't until April 12th. How do you think that is going to play out? And obviously a lot of hockey and determines of what the Red Wings are going to be able to do up until that period. But you think Stahl, perhaps Bobby Ryan, is he moving out veterans? You just brought up, and I didn't even think of that. So kudos to you. You're right. Bernier could be a plum, could probably get some pretty nice assets in return.
Yeah, remember however many years ago it is now, I've lost all track of time, but they moved Peter Mrazek at the deadline because the Flyers had, I think, all their goaltenders went down. So who knows what kind of scenario maybe comes up at the trade deadline this year regarding goaltending. But I think absolutely, and I think that had to be in the back of Steve's mind as soon as he made the trade with the New York Rangers, that, hey, this is a well-regarded veteran defenseman who, primarily, I mean, that trade was made to get the second-round pick for the rebuild, but he can probably flip Stahl again at the trade deadline for somebody. Bobby Ryan, he really kind of cooled off after that 4-goal explosion out of the gate. Though I think he's played, in my mind, he's played really well. He creates chances on a regular basis. I think he'd be a valuable addition, and his salary, at $1 million would certainly be attractive. I could see a scenario where maybe Steve trades him and then brings him back in the summer. Certainly, from the impression I get, Bobby Ryan likes it here a lot. Likes being what the Wings have going in the locker room, and could see him here maybe for a year or more. But I think with Steve, I mean, you have to look at anybody. It's interesting to me. Luke Glendening is somebody I doubt he trades. I think he sees him as too valuable to the rebuild. He's an alternate captain as well, and just the example that he sets every night, I think you keep hang on to him. Is Darren Helm somebody, if he gets an attractive pick, or do you kind of go like, well, maybe he finishes out his career as a Wings player? I don't think Steve's going to be sentimental about these guys. Steve seems very focused on what's best for the rebuild overall, and that is accumulating picks and prospects and, being patient for the future.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. One guy that I do think is pivotal in this moment moving forward with the Red Wings is Robbie Fabry. Unfortunately, we didn't see him out on the ice today. I'm not quite sure if he suffered an injury or what. We'll have to wait until we hear from Coach Blashill. But what could happen to this team without Robbie Fabry?
Well, we saw what happened when he was out with COVID, right? It wasn't good. And to me, he's another one that even, and I think he's been fairly productive after you gave him a couple of games to get back into game shape. I think he only had one practice or so coming out of his quarantine. But I think he's been excellent on that second line and seems to have good chemistry with Bobby Ryan and Philip Sedina. So now Nemesnikov's done a good job there as well. It's just, the Wings, we talked about going into the season, they looked like they were going to be a deeper team, but they're not deep enough to sustain, losing 2 or 3 of their top 6 forwards, especially when, and Art, I'm treading sensitively here, but let's face it, Anthony Mantha hasn't exactly had the season the Wings were hoping for after that nice contract in the off season. So there's not a lot of depth for them to give. And, if they lose another top 6 forward, that's certainly going to be a hurdle for them to overcome.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Svechnikov, though, I think maybe Svechnikov will finally get his shot. I mean, I don't want anything to happen to Robbie Fabry. I think he's been their best and most consistent forward. He's a plus player too. But But you're right. I mean, if Fabry's down,
I'm not sure. I think. Yeah, no, I think Gagne will go in over Svechnikov. Svechnikov.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yep.
Yeah, they don't seem. I mean, the fact that they waived him so early in the season, that was kind of a surprise to me. But then he didn't get picked up. So, but I'm not sure. I mean, I would think, based on how they've always treated these guys, you would think they'd think he's better off in Grand Rapids playing there. So, but I think Gagne would be the guy who comes in if Fabry isn't available tomorrow.
Yeah, right. You're absolutely right.
We'll see what happens, and we'll definitely hear from Coach Blanchel today. And I know, Helene, you want to get to that so we can hear all of the latest news. And make sure you are tuning in to Morning Skate presented by Little Caesars, where Ken Cal and I will also bring you that news. But Helene, thank you so much. It's always so insightful listening to you talk, and I really do miss you in the locker room.
I do too. Thank you, guys. Always a pleasure to be on.
See ya.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you being on Downtown Hockeytown, presented by Labatt Blue Light. Labatt Blue Light, refreshingly Canadian Pilsner. Visit your local retailer when safe to pick up some Labatt Blue Light. With that, we do want to now pivot and talk some Tigers. You guys are going to be joined with Dan Dickerson, who's down in Lakeland, beautiful, sunny Florida, for spring training. Again, it is time for Brush Street Beat, presented by McLaren Health System. Dan, look at that sunshine behind you.
Yes, ballpark, green, warm. It's all good.
Completely jealous. So insanely jealous. But I know did you just get there? When was your first day there?
Yeah, I got in last night, and first day was today. So I got to go see what that little 20 by 20 foot square where we can stand way beyond the right field wall of one of the four fields in the back is like. You had no idea who was doing anything, but hey, we were watching some baseball.
That's all that matters, right? The sweet sounds and smells of our baseball. It's all that really matters. What are some takeaways? I know it's early, but have you seen anything that stood out to you or anything that we should know about here in Michigan?
No, I think that the thing is, they're trying to hold a normal spring training, meaning getting all their work in with all these protocols. And I think, the emphasis for AJ is, okay, this is how we deal with it. But the work is going on all four fields, just like it normally would. That, you've got the live BP that just started in the last couple of days. And you've got, in the meantime, you've got defensive work going for infielders on one field, outfielders on another, whatever it might be. AJ Hinch wants to do two things. He wants to keep it fun. He wants to keep it moving, but he wants to drill home what he prioritizes. And I think it all starts with good defense for him. He wants good, tight defense. And there's a lot of elements to that. It's not just fielding and throwing, but all the things that you're thinking about, understanding the terminology they want with shifting, understanding why they shift and how they're going to shift and why, they're using these numbers to do what they're doing. I mean, all these things is a lot on his to-do list. But they hit the ground running because all of his coaches have been talking with players about these things leading up to it. So not any big takeaways other than he wants to get this work in. They're getting the work in. And it's just good to see baseball again.
Well, first of all, Double D, I hope you brought some miniature lights from your house to dress up that booth a little bit. I mean, one thing that we've learned about you during this off season is that you are a home decorator extraordinaire, my friend. So I expect to see some lights back there the next time we have you
lights,
on.
Right? Yeah, you know what? I think Lori stuffed them in one of my bins, so I'm going to get those up for you.
Good. I mean, I'm sure everyone will appreciate it, and you'll be known throughout the league. Oh, look, Dan Dickerson must be broadcasting a game. There's the blue lights.
Yep. The little blue lights. Yeah, adds a touch.
Definitely very homey. With all that said, let's look at some of the storylines, and there's many, and and I'm still fascinated, and I'm glad you brought up AJ Hinch, how that's all going to be integrated, how they're going to react to him, because he seems, as you said, seems like a real nice guy. Wants him to have fun, but he's very, very serious, very focused, and you're going to better be doing it this way, gentlemen, or
That's right.
You might not be wearing that old English D, which is the way it should be. But Miguel Cabrera, wants to play first. Will he play first? His value in the lineup, it looks like he's still going to be hitting third, which he should. Where do you see Miggy? How's he fitting in this year?
I think that the message from AJ Hinch, and he's had communication with Miggy, and that can be a tricky thing, right, for anybody trying to reach Miggy in the offseason. But he's communicated, through text, watching his social media videos. But he's communicated enough that the message that he wants, the general message is, just because your career arc is heading in this direction, your career does not have to finish this way as the downward trend. And he said, what I've learned in all my years is never doubt the great players. And this is a future Hall of Famer. Never doubt what they might be capable of, even if you see this trend line going in a certain direction, which has been, let's face it, on the downward side in recent years. And he also made the point, Miguel Cabrera is still key to what this offense is going to accomplish this year. So I think he's just trying to make sure that he's building them up. He lets them know that you are still a big, important part of this offense. And that, if a couple of games at first base a week, 1 or 2 a week, I don't think it's going to be any more than that. But I do think AJ Hinch recognizes that for Miguel to be productive as he wants him to be as a DH, that playing a couple of games at first base really helps him, that mental frame of mind, so he's not just constantly thinking about the last at bat and has nothing to do. He feels like it puts him in the game more, and he's going to get more out of him as a result. Sounds funny, just 1 or 2 days a week, but I really believe that's probably what we're going to see. But because they want to make sure he stays healthy, they just can't risk it more than that. But Miguel Cabrera is a big part of this offense, and there's just that ripple effect, as we know. When he's going, it just affects people in front of him, behind him, people watching him, the young hitters. There's just so many things that happen when he's productive. And I still think he's got one of those productive years in him. Maybe not peak Miggy, but something that's well above league average because he is a great hitter. We saw flashes of it in September. But he remains a big, big piece in this offense. As A.J. Hinch said, if he's productive, he has to be productive for us to have an improved offense.
Well, that makes perfect sense. I mean, obviously you want him engaged in the game. Very few players can be like Gates Brown, who was a premier pinch hitter that we brought up before, but we know why, because in between his at-bats, Gates was eating hot dogs. So he was more than engaged. He was just sitting there having a dog or two and enjoying the baseball game like a fan. Miggy has to be more engaged. So I agree with you. I think that's a great move and it's not because he loses concentration, but you're right. He gets so obsessive about his craft, which at that point, if you're just a DH, is hitting. Let him go out there. Let him play a game or two. Let him, joke around with little Altuve, pat him on the head when he gets a single and all that kind of stuff. Right. I mean, that's who Miggy is. Yeah, you got to bring that personality out a little more than just hitting. I think that's a great point, Double D.
No, I think, there's something about that. I mean, and those who have transitioned from, say, first base to DH, they found by talking to other DHs, it really is. Victor Martinez found this. It really is a transition. You have to be really mentally tough to adjust to it. Many have talked to David Ortiz, who did it as well as anybody. I mean, and especially remember the way he finished his career. But it's not for everybody. Miguel Cabrera's career OPS is 200 points lower as a DH than it is at first base. Now, he didn't play a lot of games at DH until recently, but still, throughout his career and the limited at-bats he had, he just never performed as well as he did when he was playing in a position in the field. So I think that's just one of the things A.J. Hinch is looking at. But know your person, know the person. And he knows enough about Miguel to know that a couple of days a week might go a long way.
Speaking of a lot of names, I know I do want to talk about the starting pitching candidates. AJ Hinch said there were going to be about 10 to 12 players that we were going to see have starts this season. What are we looking at? Who are we looking at, I should say?
Yeah, let's start right there, because that was something he said this offseason that really struck me. That, I mean, because of what happened last year and workload management this year, he really feels like they're going to need 10 to 12 starting pitchers to get through this year. That's worth repeating, because a normal year might be, I mean, if you're having a good year, 8, 9 starting pitchers, you might see 10 or 11, but he's talking about needing 10, 11, and 12. So that's why you're seeing signings like Tehran in the last couple of weeks, Willy Peralta. I mean, some guys you're like, why are they signing all these guys? They need that depth. So you start with, you can bank on Michael Fulmer being in this rotation if he has any kind of a spring at all. A.J. Hinch likes him, and I think people have to realize that. He's in the rotation. Boyd, and Turnbull, Mize, and Skubal, and Urania is going to be in the rotation. So the veterans, the 4 veterans, and then the 2 rookies, Mize and Skubal. I think that's a 6-man rotation to start the year with Norris and Alexander providing depth in the bullpen. But I really think Norris and Alexander, even though they've had starting experience, are best in long relief or short relief. And I think that will be their role, even if they get stretched out in the spring. And then you look at the minor league innings and the minor league starting rotation. I mean, pretty good chance that, it could be, I've got to write this down because there are so many names, but it's Manning and Lang and Garcia and probably Tehran. These are all guys, probably not Derek Holland. I think his value is getting lefties out as a reliever out of the bullpen. So I think, those are all legitimate guys who have pitched in the major leagues except for Manning. When does Matt Manning get called up? Well, they'll be watching his innings and production down at AAA. And the point that A.J. Hinch made is people think about minor league innings versus major league innings. Not as stressful, probably. And secondly, you can control the minor league innings for a Matt Manning and say, you're going to start 4 innings today, 5 innings tomorrow, 4 innings, whatever it might be. Versus when he's at the major league, A.J. Hinch says, and I'm talking about winning, you've got to think that, if he's pitching well into the 6th inning, I've got to let him go into the 7th or 8th inning. So you can control it. It's a more controlled environment at AAA for a Matt Manning versus once he's at the major league. So those are the things that they're thinking about in terms of when he gets called up and minor league innings versus major league innings. We've talked about it a lot. It's going to be something they're going to manage all year. But I do think just start with what you said. 10 to 12 starting pitchers is what they figure they will need to get through this season. And that's why they still might sign another starting pitcher. Who knows? A.J. Hinch, I will say, Carly, was asked, can you conceive of maybe, one of those rookies starting in the bullpen? So you hold their innings down to start the year, move them into the rotation later? Probably not. He said, I'm not going to rule anything out at this point, but that's not the plan at the moment. They want to stretch those guys out, and they want them to be in a rotation, either at the major league level or minor league level to start the year.
All right, WD, I have to ask you. Sorry, Art, not to step on you.
No, let's go ahead. Go ahead.
A little opinion question here. I know we saw Boyd for the starting as a starting pitcher for the first game of the season last year. Who are you thinking we'll see this year? I know it's really early, but I have to know.
Opening day starter. Yeah, I think it's Matt Boyd. He's earned it. He did not have a good year last year. He knows it. There are some reasons behind it. But if he gets back to what we saw in the first half of 2019 and pitches really well this spring, I mean, it's going to be a decision, I think, largely based on spring training. And you will, by the way, be able to probably figure things out because they're going to map it out pretty soon here, back timing it from April 1st, opening day. And you should be able to probably figure out who's on target to start that day by working backwards, by working with what the rotation is starting spring training. I've got Matthew Boyd as the number 1 guy, Spencer Turnbull as the number 2, and then Fulmer and Urania as the number 3 guy. And then the rookies fit in at the back end.
I like
Double
it.
D, let's go to that closer competition. Brian Garcia, Joe Jimenez, who really is still in the mix, and then George Buck Farmer, who I understand shaved his beard. So let me ask you this: is there a rule for how long a pitcher's beard can be? Because I'm pretty sure Daniel Norris, if he keeps growing his, if there's a line drive that he can snag with his beard, I think it's lush and so thick that he could actually catch the ball with it. But and I'm sure you can have a beard as long as you want, right? I mean, it doesn't matter.
No, I think actually they do have strict rules depending on your service time in the major leagues. And
really,
and I wish I could remember. I'm trying to remember who it was who told us the strict rules on facial hair for the young kids, that you can't have that big flowing beard as a kid. I think it either has to be trimmed or no beard. Facial hair, there are rules, which I wasn't even aware of until a couple months ago. And one of the kids we were interviewing said something about it. So yes, I think there actually are. Now, as a veteran, can you just keep growing it? Yeah, I think go right ahead. Put it in a little ponytail, whatever that's called, in front of your chin. Yeah, sure. But I think for the youngsters, there are strict limits.
I'd love to see Norris snag a ball with his beard out the ear. Boom. Yeah. Okay, yeah, he's out.
Yeah, think ZZ Top, right? I mean, that kind of beard. That'd be awesome.
Oh,
Right. Definitely. Yeah, definitely this easy, sharp dressed man, and that's Daniel Norris for sure. How about the closers though? I mean, is it Brian Garcia's job to lose, or is this a real competition?
Real competition, I think, and for a couple of reasons. Brian Garcia showed that he could handle the pressure in that closer's role. He's been a closer in college, and just those body language messages that he's sending out, if you will, when he took the mound. He had a good presence on the mound as a closer in those late inning situations going down the stretch last year. He knows that the strikeout rate has to come up, and it did down the stretch. He also knows he got away with, and A.J. Hinch has talked about it, he got away with too many base runners, some hard hit balls right at people, getting out of jams. So that ERA is probably artificially low. But he knew that. I mean, these guys know exactly, when they get away with some things. He got away with some things. You need a certain level of swing and miss. He's got stuff that can get swings and misses with his fastball slider combination. So I think that's going to be a key. And think about it. Think how hard it is for a manager who right now doesn't have that obvious number one closer, because Joey Menes has been up and down, finished strong last year, but finished strong in very low leverage situations. He was working early in the game, usually when they were behind, very different from a closer's role. And Buck Farmer just quietly is Mr. Everything, but I think he has to regain a little bit of that fastball velocity. He stayed at 93 last year. I think he needs to be back up at 95, which is where he'd been in 2019. In order for him to kind of get into that closer conversation. But think how difficult it is. Now you're trying to pick between those three. All legitimate chances, I think. And I kind of have the feel that it's Jimenez and Garcia, because Farmer fills so many roles. I think they like that flexibility of a guy who can go multiple innings before the ninth inning. But you can't replicate even close the ninth inning of a major league regular season game with a ninth inning of a spring training game. So you will see closers come in early in the game just so they're facing the best hitters on the opposing team. Just something for fans to watch this year. If you see Joey Menes come in the fifth inning with a 4-3 lead because he's going to face the 3-4-5 hitters who are regulars in the Yankees lineup, that's a sign that, okay, they're trying to get a feel for him. You put him in the ninth inning in a 4-3 lead, and it's all A-ball guys and double-A guys, it's not the same. There's no pressure. I can't describe these games enough. There's no pressure in the ninth inning. There just isn't. So you kind of have to manufacture it and manufacture the pressure by saying, okay, there's a competition in every inning we're watching, not just the results. Sometimes it's bad luck, but the stuff and whether that stuff can get major league hitters out in the regular season.
Well, a lot of questions going into spring training that will be answered. We'll see. I'm sure we'll talk to you again. Enjoy that sunshine, Dan. Thank you so much for joining us again. It's always a pleasure having you on. Wow.
Always good to be on with you guys. It's a transition to go from cold to warm, but I just want you guys to know I'm dealing with it. I'm okay.
I'm so sorry you have to go through
that. My heart aches for you there, Dan.
Thanks. I know you're with me.
I'll just sit my
all the way.
All
right, guys. I'll talk to you next week.
And the baseball. And a big thank you to McLaren Health System for sponsoring the Brush Street Beat this week and every week here on The Word on Woodward. And of course, as we're talking about the MLB season, don't miss a minute of the 2021 Detroit Tigers season with a 1901 Society membership starting at just $499. That's only $6.16 per game. Secure your personal seat, a membership in the 1901 Society, and exclusive benefits like player meet and greets and more. Buy now at tigers.com/$499. And now I'm excited to hand it off to Art, where he caught up with Hall of Famer Alan Trammell. Art?
Thank you, Daniela. It is time for the headliner presented by Miller Lite, and our guest is Alan Trammell, Hall of Famer, Special Assistant to General Manager Al Avila. He joins us for the second go-around here on the headliner. Alan, thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure, Art. And spring training just started. Everybody's down here. At least the full squads has started as of this week. And so, it's a great time of the year for all of us, even for somebody that's, it's been long gone, long in the tooth. My playing days have been a few years ago, but that internal clock, I got to be honest with you, when the first of the year rolls around, you start thinking about baseball. And we've had so many things come up in the past year or so with the COVID and all. But it is really nice just to get back on the field, even though we still have to go through some of the protocols and all that stuff. But again, just getting back on the field and seeing our players, man, spring's in the air. It's coming. I know it's not quite there yet, but it is coming soon.
Well, Alan, I know you recently just celebrated a birthday. Are you one of these people? Is this your birthday week, birthday month? Do you celebrate it for, I guess what I'm trying to ask you, are you totally obnoxious when it comes to your birthday and you let everybody know, hey, it's my birthday? We're having a party?
No, I wish I'm trying to be incognito and I'm trying to hide. And unfortunately, some of our PR people, bring it to some people's attention. So, I can't escape that. But no, it's fine. But I mean, obviously, when you do get older, it's not the birthdays that are that important. But I will say that it also is my anniversary. So, as you know, that's way more important at this stage of the game as far as celebrating the anniversary. Obviously, I am here in Lakeland. My wife is back in San Diego. But I made sure that the Valentine's Day gift, anniversary gift, and her birthday's also in March. So I had 3 for 1, the cards, the presents, and all that. I'm all good. But so.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's why you're a Hall of Famer. You're a Hall of Famer in life as well as off the diamond and on the diamond as well. I mean, a very good move. And what is it now, Alan? Like 15 years of marital bliss? Is that it for you?
Oh no. 43.
Woo!
43 years.
43?
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, my God, you got married very young.
I did. If you do the math, I got married on my 20th birthday.
Wow.
So, that was it was a while ago, 1978. And if you look back, and I'm looking back, but we got married. We put it together kind of quickly, to be honest with you. And just in a couple of days in 1978, the reporting date, I don't remember exactly the date, but it was shortly thereafter that we got married. And a couple of days later, I was on my way to Lakeland to get ready for that year. But looking back, it's worked for us. I know it hasn't worked for everybody, but it has for us.
Well, hey, congratulations. That's great. I mean, obviously I was being a bit facetious there about 15 years, but congratulations. 40. Yeah, just a little bit. Wow. All right. Well, Lakeland, you're back in Lakeland, as you said. You've been going there for at least 43 years that we know of. What is that experience like? I mean, you said that, the boys of summer, but what specifically will you be doing in Lakeland as special assistant to Al Avila?
Yeah, well, it really hasn't changed over the years. I mean, Al and David Chad have really allowed me to kind of just be a part of everything. And I've tried to take advantage of that where, again, the pitchers and catchers, to be honest with you, the last few years, I haven't been here that early. I would normally show up for the first full day and then kind of be there for the rest of spring. But, again, with the new staff, with AJ invited me to come, with the protocols, with the COVID, getting testing, quarantining, getting your physicals and all that. I didn't want to be the outcast to come in and, have to have something separate for me. So I felt like it was the best thing to do. I got the okay from my wife. And so I've been down here. I left San Diego on February the 9th.
Wow.
But again, just trying to be involved in a little bit of everything, now that we have the full camp. And we have Spencer Torkelson, who was kind of my project last year. But now we have the full staff to be able to look at him and others and just try to put our hands on them and try to help these kids, get to the major leagues as quickly as they can. So it's a variety of things. I mean, obviously Miguel Cabrera, everybody obviously knows Miggy, but some of the other new faces that we have here, I'll give my input, and not that my input's any special than some of the other guys, but it's just another person's opinion. And again, that's going back to Al and David Chad to allow me to be a part. So I love it. I'm still a big kid at heart, and however many more years that they allow me to do that, I'm going to try to take full advantage of it.
Well, I'm not saying the Tigers are taking advantage of you, but trust me, I mean, you're a big part of this organization.
Oh, I love it. It's the other way around. They let my foot in the door, And I just, I go over to all the fields, and I'm not afraid to, hopefully I hope them out throwing a little BP here and there, hitting some fungos, and again, just observing. And we're still in transition. I mean, we're not the total rebuild like we were, within the last few years. We're starting to build this, and obviously with AJ Hinch and his new staff, I can give them a little insight on some of the guys that I've seen in the past, and others can do the same thing as well. But our opinions are valued, and so when they ask me what they think, I'm certainly going to tell them.
Well, you bring up AJ Hinch, and I really want to get into Torkelson a little bit too, because I get a lot of questions addressed to me about Torkelson. But you and AJ go back a number of years. Obviously, you're very well aware of him.
Sure.
As a player and now as a manager. Everyone loved Ron Gardenhire. I mean, it doesn't get any better than Gardy. But how do you see this transition working? I mean, are you eager to see how this young Tiger club takes to AJ and his staff, which by all accounts is one of the most impressive staffs in all of baseball? I don't think I'm even overstating that.
Well, it's a good point. And from what, obviously I have known AJ for a number of years. We went different paths, for the last decade or so. But obviously as a baseball person, I'm aware of baseball people. And if I'm not mistaken, he had some pretty good success there with the Astros. And as far as, the incident that did happen, he's been out front with the players about, if you want to come into my office, he's apologized, and he's been very upfront with that, which I commend him for. But he's a sharp guy, and, he's a baseball guy. And it just seems like, for whatever reason, I mean, I was a shortstop. I was always a little biased thinking that, the shortstops were the most important. We say that, but every position is important, but none more than the catcher. I mean, there's no question about it. The catching is so big because they're dealing with the pitchers. And it seems like the trend here for quite a while now has been the major league catchers coming and becoming major league managers. And I think it works hand in hand because, again, the pitching, number one component. So they have that. And AJ's just, again, he's a sharp guy. I think he's done a great job with the staff. I'm getting to know them myself early on. And I'm looking forward as this thing transitions into the season, into the future, that we have the right man. And again, Gardy was an awesome guy. He still is an awesome guy. But again, things change. So then you have to move on and turn the page. And so the hire of AJ Hinch, I do believe, was the right move.
I know we have to jump around, but I really want to get your thought. I mean, we're both kind of old school, a little bit, or at least I am. Where are you on all this analytics? Is it too much information? Are you trying to grasp it yourself, or?
Well, I think as a person that's part of the game, I think we all have to get up to speed to a certain degree. I mean, am I going to be, at the top of the chain as far as that? No. I mean, I'll be honest with that. But I'm trying to learn. And there are some things, obviously, that are great. And we all need to get on board with that. And, this is 2021. It's not going away in any of the sports. It's here. So, but again, my little take on this is that the analytics are great, and there's certain things that I'm going to use more so than maybe some of the others that works for me. But I also tell the young players, I said, never lose sight of the fact of watching the game. So to me, it's a combination. And I think that's the safest way. And that's not a cop-out, but I do think that's the truth. I said that information is great, but don't get so carried away in it with everything that you still have to watch the game and have a feel for the game. And I do believe that's not going to change. Having a feel for the game is still very important.
When you look at Spencer Torkelson, and I know, as I said, we're jumping around a little bit here, people look at first base and they think, well, God, there seems to be a hole at first base. No offense to Miggy, who wants to play probably all 162 at first base. Torkelson's learning third. Tram's been working with him at third. But, geez, there seems to be a need at first, and he played first. Shouldn't he be playing first? I mean, how is that whole transition going? Because if you talk to Torkelson, at this point, his mindset seems, I'm playing third.
Oh, he's all in. And he's a baseball player, and that's what you're hoping for. We know he can play first. And I think that the organization, and I'm not exactly who was the one person or multiple guys that decided that, they had the suggestion that Tor could play third. And, when it first happened, I was like, oh, yeah, that's exactly what you were saying. I thought he was a first baseman, and
Right.
obviously an All-American at Arizona State, number one pick in the country. But he's athletic enough to do it, and that's a compliment to Torque that he can do that. So, we're trying this as an organization. They feel like this is the best way to help the Detroit Tigers organization, knowing that at some point, if it didn't work out, that he can go back to first. And so this is still, if you have to, when you really break it down, he still is in the early infancy stages of third base. I mean, he came in, we drafted him, we were able to get him into spring training 2.0 and bring him down to the alternate site. But he's not played a professional game live yet. And he's not gotten the reps yet that he's going to need. So, but he's a bright kid, and he's done everything in his power to this point to get to where you look at him and go, you know what, Torque, I think you can play third base. And again, that's a compliment to him. So getting back to your thoughts about, and others about, well, why are we doing this? I just think that the needs for the Tigers, that we felt like this is a need that if he was to step in and play third base for us, it would make us better. And so we're going to leave it at that. We're going to see how it plays out as this year, unfolds. And I'm sure we'll have some more conversations, as the months go on. But right now, man, he's all in. He's a baseball player, and I give his parents a lot of credit, because when you meet a young player, you can always tell, kind of the family, the background,
right.
And he's well grounded. A kid that's 1-1, the number one pick in the country. He comes across very well. He speaks with the media. Sometimes those things don't come that easy for people. So for Torque, he's all in, and it's been a joy to work with him.
Alan, we're running out of time, but I want to ask you, shortstop. Up until you just told me catcher was the most important position on the field. I always thought it was shortstop myself. But Willy Castro. It really came on, especially hitting wise last year. I think the Tigers are going to give him every opportunity to win that job. How do you assess Willy Castro? Is he major league caliber? Is he a major league caliber shortstop?
Oh yeah, no, he's major league caliber, and you can only go on a short sample, and that's the unfortunate part. It was 58 games. And he wasn't even there at the start of the season. But when you look at the amount of games that he played and his performance, you've got to go, wow, you've got to give him the opportunity. And I think that's what we're going to do, as we should, as we go forward. He's young, he's a switch hitter. He can play shortstop. He came up a little bit hurt at the end with the arm, but he seems to be fine down here. So I think as we go forward, that's how it's going to play out. Now, again, that's not to take it away from Nico Goodrum, who I know was somewhat disappointed, but Nico still has a place on this ball club, and he's going to get to play quite a bit.
The organization has to catch a break on a player. Could Riley Green be that player? Could he be fast-tracked, or do I have to, amp it down a little bit, Art, when it comes to Riley Green?
Well, I mean, I think the organization would say, let's kind of low key this, play this down a little bit. But he's a good looking player. I'm not afraid to say that. I mean, this kid has come, quicker than most to this point. Again, he did not get a chance to play a game, professional game last year, but he did quite well down at the alternate site. He held his own, and that's an understatement. He did more than that. And he's a baseball player as well. So he's well-rounded. He understands the game. And we have a few kids, and Dylan Dingler is another one that was at the alternate site last year. But these guys are all in. And that's when I say that, man, that's a true compliment that they're there early. They're there when the coaches are going to, give them the extra early work afterwards. Always ears and eyes and ears open. They're like sponges, and that's kind of what you like. And the other part about that, Art, just to give you a little something, is they got some talent. That's what we're talking about as well. So when you put that combination together, we think that we have the nucleus here that we're gonna become world champions again at some point. It's got to start somewhere. They're not quite there yet. But again, I think that your question about Riley is that, yeah, he could be the guy that could be fast-tracked. Obviously, he still has to go out there and get a little more seasoning, but see how it plays. I mean, I know that, back in the day, I'm going to give you four guys that they kind of fast-tracked. Right. Lance Parrish, Jack Morris, Lou Whitaker, and Alan Trammell. And all four of us, we got the opportunity and we made it. So we'll see what happens.
Alan, we are out of time, unfortunately. We were out of time a long time ago. So, but I do appreciate it. You're, Hall of Fame. What can I say? It's always great to have you. We're going to have you on the Headliner again very, very soon. And we'll pick this conversation up where we left off. But best of luck to you. I know the Tigers are in good hands when they have people like you training these young guns for the next level. But really appreciate it. You take care of yourself, Tram. Thank you very much. And happy birthday.
All right, Art. Well, thank you. Again, a pleasure. And we will do it again soon. Thank you.
All right, that'll do it for this edition of the Headliner, presented by Miller Lite. It is the original light beer. It's only 96 calories. It tastes delicious, and it is available for delivery. Daniela, back to you.
Carly here for Daniela, but thank you, Art. I do want to plug, as we were just talking to Alan Trammell, to check out the Road to Detroit 2021, a 30-minute special put together by the Tigers in-house production team. Featured players including Spencer Torkelson, Casey Mize, Riley Green, and many, many others. Re-airs are playing now on FSD, and you can catch player-specific bios on the Tigers YouTube channel and DetroitTigers.com. I'm 0 for 2 on splitting the Red Wings and the Tigers, Art.
Yeah, look, I'm really excited about talking to Double D. You can tell he's into it. Helena, the Red Wings trade deadline. There's so much going on right now. I almost think that we're busier now than we were when everything was, normal. Because there was more of a pattern to it. Everything just seems to come to us every day. There's something different, something new, which has always been great about this business. That's kind of what this business is like on a day-to-day basis. But boy, it's been really fascinating lately.
Absolutely. It definitely keeps us on our toes. That's for sure. This is not a boring job to have, but we're going to get into Let's Socialize, presented by AAA, where we're going to talk about some social comments we got. First up is about Daniel Norris. We were on Facebook, on Tigers Facebook, and we got a comment from Douglas Baumgartner. I hope I'm saying that right. And if Daniel Norris should get a chance to close. Art, what are you thinking?
I don't think that Daniel Norris is interested in closing. First of all, I think he has the mindset of a closer, meaning that I don't think if he were to blow a save opportunity, he would let it linger. He could go out and get the ball the next day and come out and perform very, very well. I think, and he's been pretty upfront about this, he wants to be a starter. He's always been a starter. So I think that at this point where he's at right now, and let's be honest, there have been some starting pitchers that have gone into the bullpen and been closers that have been great. And, you can definitely extend your career and make a boatload of money being a closer. So, but I think where his mindset is at, and I know I shouldn't get in any person's mind, I always get you in trouble. I think he still wants to give starting one more shot. I think, and I think that's what he's talked about with AJ Hinch and with Chris Fetter. And let's be honest. If that does happen, that means the bottom has to drop out of Garcia, Jimenez, and Farmer. If they're thinking about Daniel Norris closing, then boy, they're in trouble, because we just talked about it. There's 10 to 12 guys that they're going to need as starting pitchers. You can bet that Daniel Norris thinks he's one of those 10 to 12 guys, and he should be. So I would think that maybe eventually somewhere down the road, he has good stuff. He's left-handed. Perhaps that's an interesting question. I just don't think where Daniel Norris is at in his career, where the Tigers are at this year, because nobody stretched their arms out last year with the shortened schedule. I think starting would be more what he would like to try to do, and we'll see.
And I'm really surprised you didn't bring this up when we were talking about it earlier. His beard. Well, let's talk about his beard and his hair game. He has that lettuce popping out of the back of his hat. I know you.
I love his hair game. I love his hair game. I really combed it. I don't know why on the big screen show or Game Day Live it just doesn't work this way. I think it's because of the mask. But with that said, look, I love the guy's hair. I love his beard. I truly think if they let it, if he can grow it as long as he wants, and I think he will, I think he could snag a ball with that beard and make outs. I mean, plus there would, if he were to do that, that would be the play of the year in Major League Baseball, no matter what. I mean, that's too short to do, but we've seen him on some Zoom calls during the offseason, and it's quite a bit longer than that. I think it goes down to right where the Nike swoosh is. But he's, and it's a full beard. So if there's anyone that can do it, but kudos on the hair, kudos on the beard. Daniel Norris is, as we would say back in the day, he's a real interesting cat, that dude. He's got a lot going on, and I just enjoy hearing him speak on virtually anything. He's that fascinating of a person.
Almost as fascinating as you are. Almost as fascinating as you.
Well, thank you, Carly. I appreciate that, I think.
We're going to move on to the second social post. We want to give a huge happy birthday to Tyler Bertuzzi. It's his birthday today. Unfortunately, he's out with an injury, but a big happy birthday to Tyler Bertuzzi. Maybe a birthday present from him to us would be to return in the lineup.
Yeah, or the hockey gods, allowing him to heal up and get back out there. Obviously, Dylan Larkin's been playing great. I mean, he's been playing his butt off. He's up and down the ice. He's setting guys up. He's getting the puck. I mean, I think, he hasn't been rewarded on the score sheet, but Dylan's game is really starting to come around. But he misses Bertuzzi. I think the whole club misses Bertuzzi. Who said this? I don't know if it was on, maybe it was Ozzy last night on the postgame show with on Fox's, which I DVR, which I record so I can watch it when I get home after the game. He said Bertuzzi's kind of their Brian Marchment, a Boston. He's the sandpaper guy, the guy that goes into the corners. He gets things done. He's a catalyst, and and I've always knew Tyler Bertuzzi sort of played that type of game, but I think that was a really, really good comparison. Obviously. The Red Wings are a much better team with Tyler in there. Hopefully he gets healthy, and happy birthday, buddy. We're all rooting for you to be back on the ice very, very soon.
Yes, fingers crossed is very, very soon. This team isn't the same without Bert, but a big happy birthday to him. And that is all we have for AAA. AAA says thank you with free roadside assistance for first responders and healthcare workers fighting to defeat COVID-19. You protect us by going to work every day. Let AAA protect you on the way there and back. And now it's time for a very special roundtable. The Detroit Red Wings Foundation, in partnership with Comerica Bank, identified 4 game changers who do great work in our community. Please take a look as Danielle Bruce sat down with our game changers earlier.
Welcome to our exclusive Game Changers Roundtable. In partnership with Comerica Bank, I am joined today by 4 incredible people who are dedicated to bettering the Detroit community and making a positive impact on young Detroiters. So I'll go from your left to right. We have Khalees Sweeney, founder and CEO of Downtown Boxing Gym, Kenyatta Stevens, Chief Executive Officer of Black Family Development, Inc., Sean Wilson, President and CEO of Boys and Girls Club of Southeastern Michigan, and Portia Roberts, CEO of Focus Hope. So all 4 of you, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. We're really excited to catch up on some of the amazing things that you're doing in our Detroit community. And I want to start with Portia and Kenyatta specifically. You both work for organizations that have countless programs to help Detroiters of all ages. Portia, we're going to start with you specifically and Focus Hope. I know that you grew up in the Detroit area and got to witness firsthand some of the great things that Focus Hope has done for the community. What do you hope to achieve by doing the work that you do?
Well, I like to say often that I wish that they would put me out of business, because that meant that we didn't need to help people anymore, that people had everything that they needed. But in the meantime, I think we're going to be around for a while. We've certainly seen during the last year the need for our Food for Seniors program, our early learning and Head Start programs, and certainly our workforce development. We know that the workforce has changed tremendously over the last year. And so we want to make sure we can get as many Detroiters and people in this region back to work when the time is right.
And Kenyatta, you work closely with families in the city of Detroit with Black Family Development, Inc. Why is keeping families together and strong so important to a community? And what type of approach do you take while working with families in our community?
A great question. Thank you. Well, first of all, we believe that the family was the first institution. And it's upon the strength of families that children thrive. They determine their well-being. They determine their sense of self. And it's upon that foundation that children excel academically and their careers from that point are built. And so our job is to take an approach of linking arms with the families who are experts about their goals and visions for their children, but also other nonprofits, our philanthropic partners, and governmental entities, so that we collectively build a safety net upon which Detroit children and other children can thrive.
And I know that you all work really closely with children in the community, but Kali, I want to start with you in Downtown Boxing Gym and really focus on the youth of Detroit. As the founder and CEO of this after-school athletic program, what made you want to start something like this?
Myself personally, I'm from the city of Detroit. The neighborhood I grew up, it was nothing there really for us, and I saw the effect of having nothing in the neighborhood. I saw the effect of not having any resources. So I wanted to provide the resources that I didn't have growing up, and so I had the ability to do it, and I did it. Saw the need in the community, and I stepped in.
What you're doing is so great for the community, Kali, and Learn, Play, Score is a program that the Red Wings started with similar goals in mind to teach and grow the game of hockey in Detroit. Athletics are clearly something that are a passion of yours. So how important are programs like yours and Learn, Play, Score?
Well, it was a long time ago. I read a book where it said you can find out more about a person in an hour play than a lifetime of questions. So when you're playing with somebody in that hour play, they'll let their guard down and let you into aspects of their life that they would normally tell you. They would keep that guarded. And one of the things that I do with our program is, while I'm there, I ask critical questions. How was your day? What's going on? Stuff like that. So these are critical moments where you can mentor and put a person on the right path to success. So these programs are definitely needed in the community.
And last but not least, Sean, you are also very passionate about the youth in Detroit as the president and CEO of the Boys and Girls Club of Southeastern Michigan. Since you joined in 2018, what impact have you seen programs like Learn, Play, Score make on our youth?
Yeah, it's been fantastic. I mean, to Kali's point, I think at the end of the day, sports is a hook for youth. It provides tremendous social and emotional support to our youth. And when you look at what we're doing right now and what's happening right now with COVID, sports are more important now than ever. And so, the goal of the Boys and Girls Club is to take that sports as a hook, bring the kids in, and then make sure that when they leave our clubs, they're career startup and homeowner ready. So we want them career ready from a standpoint of, they can earn a livable wage, startup where they can actually start their own job or create their own job, create their own business, and more importantly, create businesses and jobs for others. And then home ownership, because that's the cornerstone of wealth in our country. So at the end of the day, we've made a hard pivot over the last 2 years to really focusing on economic mobility as the core root of the issue facing our kids, the lack of economic mobility, and making sure that we're giving them the tools to achieve those things.
So when you talk about building these kids into being career ready when they graduate high school or whenever it may be, what do you do to help them do that? What are some of the programs that you offer?
Yeah, so it's really about a model first and foremost. We have to give them access to programs that make sure when they come, it's a safe place, both physically and mentally. And then we can start to drill those skills in, and then self-efficacy, right? So you believe you can accomplish something once you've done it. So we've really launched a robust workforce development program where we're employing kids in everything from fashion industry to sports industry, and we're going to continue to grow that.
Now, this next question, I should say, I've got a couple more for you, but this next one I want all of you to answer, and it's a very big and very important question. Over the last year, we saw a lot of movement towards social justice and inclusion. What do we have to do to keep this momentum going?
Well, the first thing we need to do is continue doing what we're doing right now. We got 4 people on here that are serving the community. We need to start pouring more resources into the community to some of these underserved populations and give them all the tools they need to be successful in life. And so that's a big step. And, it shouldn't be hard for us to do the job that we do. We got to constantly make people understand that it's important that we have the resources to play on a level playing field. So contributing resources, giving us the resources we need to be successful.
I think in support of what Kali has already said is really elevating the work of partners like those who are being honored today, and to do so at various levels. I think one, a policy-driven level. We need to elevate policies in the halls of justice that elevate the need for equity, and at the same time remove those barriers that exist policy-wise to equity, achieving equity. I think on the local front, really just making sure we elevate programs for boys and young men of color, so that they have open doors of opportunities that in many cases the social justice movement is starting to open in ways that are unprecedented since the 60s. So,
Sean, we've made a lot of progress in a positive direction. And as mentioned, we really want to keep this one going. How do you think we do that?
So I think we have to continue to have courageous conversations, right? And stop dealing in absolutes. So two things can be true at the same time. We can be the greatest country in the world, and we can also be a country that was, really founded and has, been driven by systemic racism. And we have to be comfortable and we have to be bold in acknowledging that, because that's the only way that we're going to be able to heal our country, is to face our challenges head on, first and foremost.
And Portia, last but not least, what are your thoughts?
Well, listen, I would say ditto to all the other game changers, because I can only echo what they've already said. But I absolutely believe that we've made some strides, but we have a long way to go. I think acknowledging the history, as Sean said, about how this country was built, and how the economic unfairness has perpetuated itself to current day. And so really looking at how we can, at Focus Hope, not only advocate and speak about community empowerment and equity, but also talk about things like the systemic policies that prevent us from home ownership or prevent us from generational wealth that we can pass down to our children and grandchildren. So those are the things I think we continue to need to have collective conversations and change policies around, so that we are on an equal playing field.
In honor of the Game Changers program and in partnership with Comerica Bank, the Red Wings Foundation has donated $1,000 to a charity that each of you has chosen. How exciting is this donation? And why don't you guys describe what charity each of you chose to donate to?
I chose the downtown boxing gym because any type of resources are greatly needed right now. As you know, we're dealing with this pandemic, and resources are real thin right now.
Kenyatta, why don't you go next?
well, thank you so much to the Red Wings Foundation. This is exciting for us. We have chosen to deposit those resources in advancing the work of boys and young men of color that we are pleased to serve. And we agree with Kali, the pandemic has created a need for us to really do a deeper dive in partnership with our neighborhood leaders to identify young men that we can help elevate out of the pandemic and the difficulties the pandemic has caused. So thank you. We're excited.
Sean, what about you?
Well, we're really excited about the gift. And like a lot of organizations, we really had to pivot. And I'm going to be donating that $1,000 to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Southeastern Michigan. Like a lot of organizations, we had to pivot during the pandemic. And as of right now, we're open during the day for learning pods to help our youth be able to navigate virtual learning. And I know organizations like the Boys and Girls Club and Downtown Boxing Gym has really had to pivot our model to make sure that we're there for the kids when they needed us the most. So, you know, every dollar counts, and this $1,000 is going to go a long way in helping us continue to be there for the youth.
And Portia?
And no surprise here, our donation, or the donation, is going to Focus Hope, and thank you so much for it. I think, as again, my fellow game changers have said, every dollar counts, especially when you're dealing with providing resources to people during a pandemic. So there were a lot of moments where we had to shift and do things a little differently than we had to do them in 2019. And so every dollar goes to support our students or our families in some way, shape, or form. Sometimes that's about making sure everybody has the PPEs that they need. And sometimes it's about giving a direct payment to someone to help a family get over a hump. So we're very appreciative, and thank you so much for it.
And lastly, to wrap things up, I want to do a little bit of an open mic. There is so much that goes into our movement towards racial equality, diversity, and inclusion, and of course, bettering the Detroit community. If you guys had just a closing statement, something that you really want to share with your community, what would that be? And Kali, we'll start with you again.
well, with the pandemic, it just showed us that we all are part of one big family, one big team. We had the opportunity to reach back to some people who helped us out in the beginning. We actually had the opportunity to return the favor. Instead of serving just the one kid that's in our program, we had an opportunity to help the kids that are actually at home, who are maybe too old or too young for the program, and help the entire family as far as providing PPE and everything else that you could think of in between. It felt good for us to be able to do that and serve and to help other organizations, not only just our own, but other organizations that were out there doing good work already. We help them continue to do their work and serve our community. It just shows us that we all are part of one big team. And I'm proud to be in this moment right now with my fellow honorees here.
Kenyatta?
Well, we concur with Sean when he said that organizations certainly had to pivot to best meet the needs of residents. And so when we think about the over 5,000 students that in the midst of the pandemic we were able to serve last year, we are encouraged. And I think our closing statement would be just know that Game Changers, like the honorees today and other agencies in this community, our doors are open. We're ready to serve families. And if we can deposit some hope and healing during this difficult time, then that would bring us great honors to serve.
Sean?
If I have one thing to leave everyone with, it would just be that, during tough times, during crisis, there's a lot of tough issues that you have to deal with. But there's a lot of opportunities that come out of those tough times as well. And, being able to collaborate with other organizations, whether it's Focus Hope or Downtown Boxing Gym or whomever, has really been one of the blessings that has come out of this pandemic, if a blessing could come out of it. And so I think as we come out of the pandemic, I think we have to continue that spirit of collaboration and that spirit of working together. And I think if we do that, we'll be able to really work ourselves out of a job. And I don't think any of the Game Changers would gladly work themselves out of a job if we could address some of the issues that we're trying to address.
And Portia?
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly. The opportunity for collaboration between all of these organizations and so many more that are serving this community has been huge during the last year. And I'd also point out to people who may not understand that there's a lot of need still in our communities. And so when people are talking about what government can do or what others can do, one of the reasons we exist is because we actually do that work. We actually fill in some of those gaps where other folks can't do that kind of work. And so I think because our doors are open, and most of us have been since day one of the pandemic, certainly, we just want to continue to provide for those people who need. And we just want to make sure that people understand that this is the work that we all have dedicated ourselves to and that we do. And that work is very important for a growing and thriving community.
Thank you guys so much for taking the time to join us today. It really is incredible, all of the work that you guys do as individuals in our community, and it does not go unnoticed or unappreciated. For more information, everybody watching, you can visit DetroitRedWings.com/equality for more information on all of the organizations that we've been talking about. Again, thank you guys so much. It truly is amazing what you're doing.
Outstanding interview between Daniela and those 4 Game Changers. Fans, of course, as we continue to celebrate Black History Month, join the Red Wings with a purchase of a limited edition t-shirt. Each shirt costs $30, with proceeds supporting local youth programming through the Detroit Branch NAACP and the Detroit Red Wings Foundation. To learn more and to purchase a shirt, visit DetroitRedWings.com/equality. Also, if you missed anything in the show, you can catch up watching the interviews on the WOW YouTube channel or listen to the show as a podcast on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. Wings game day tomorrow starts with the morning skate at 10:30 a.m. with Ken Cal and I, and forecheck at 4 p.m. with Danielle Bruce and Ken Cal before the Wings face the Predators at 7:30 p.m. Also, make sure to check out the Hockeytown Home Ice presented by Bud Light. Keep up to date on Tigers spring training with their social media channels. Tons of fun that'll be happening down in Lakeland. And of course, we'll talk about all of this week's news and much more next week on The Word on Woodward, coming to you on Wednesday at noon on Detroit Tigers and DetroitRedWings.com YouTube and Facebook pages. Until then, everyone, stay safe and stay healthy. Let's go Red Wings and let's go Tigers.